In 1995, one man destroyed a bank in London. He didn't rob the bank or hack the system. He simply made financial bets, lost, and then made even bigger bets, trying to win back the losses. The bank had existed for 233 years and survived Napoleon, 2 world wars, and the Great Depression. But in the end, it was destroyed by a 28-year-old guy from a working-class area of London named Nick Leeson. Nick Leeson grew up in Watford in a completely ordinary family. His father worked as a plasterer on construction sites, and his mother took care of the home. Nick went to a regular school and never went to university. He began his career as a clerk at Bank, and later moved to Barings, one of Britain's oldest and most prestigious banks, whose clients included the Queen and aristocrats from across Europe. Management sent Nick to Singapore, where he was supposed to oversee trading operations on the exchange. But this is where the bank made a serious mistake. Nick was responsible both for making the trades and for checking them. It was basically like letting a cashier investigate himself for stealing, and that became the bank's fatal mistake. In March 1992, one of Nick's employees made a mistake while processing a trade, a loss of £20,000. By the bank's standards, it was a small amount, but Nick didn't want to report it to management. The department had only just started operating, and it was important for him to appear competent. He opened an internal account with the number 88888. In Chinese culture, the number 8 is a symbol of luck and prosperity. Nick hoped to quietly win the money back on his next trades and close the account before anyone noticed. It didn't work. The next trades also ended in losses, and they were sent to the same account. The scheme became a habit. The real losses lived in the hidden account, while London management received polished reports showing profits. It wasn't difficult. Nick controlled both the trading and the paperwork at the same time, so account 88888 simply never appeared in the official reports. The numbers grew fast. By the end of 1992, the account had accumulated £2 million in losses. A year later, it was already £23 million, and by the end of 1994, more than £200 million. At the same time, officially, Nick was considered the bank's best trader. He was praised in meetings, paid bonuses, and sent thank you letters from London. In 1994, his bonus was £130,000. He smiled, sent reports, and nobody asked questions. Everyone who hears this story for the first time asks the same question. 3 years, almost £1 billion, and nobody noticed? The auditors came twice during that period. Both times, Nick provided fake documents, false confirmations from supposedly existing counterparties that explained the hole in the balance sheet. The auditors accepted the papers and left. But it wasn't just about the fake documents. A very simple psychological mechanism was at work here. When someone delivers results, nobody touches them. Checking looked like distrust. Nobody wanted to interfere with the star of the department who was making money for the bank. In London, they were happy to see good numbers and avoid asking unnecessary questions. Singapore was far away. The Asian market seemed complex and confusing, and it was easier to trust the person on the ground. Leeson understood this, and he used it. The problem wasn't that he turned out to be a brilliant fraudster. The problem was that the system itself was built in a way that allowed him to go unnoticed. On January 17, 1995, at 5:46 a.m., an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.3 struck the Japanese city of Kobe, one of the strongest in the country's post-war history. In just 20 seconds, more than 100,000 buildings were destroyed, and 6,500 people were killed. The Japanese stock market reacted immediately. Investors began selling, and the Nikkei index started falling. Nick had a problem. By that point, he was holding massive open positions betting that the market would rise. Every point the Nikkei fell meant direct losses on account 88888. And then he did what any person who cannot admit defeat does. He bet even more. The logic seemed simple to him. The market cannot fall forever, and one big successful position would cover everything. In January and February, he kept buying futures contracts at an increasing speed. At his peak, he controlled positions equivalent to 7% of the entire Japanese stock market. One trader from the Singapore office of a small British bank was holding positions the size of a small country. The market did not bounce back. By February, it became obvious. The hole was so large that no bet could cover it anymore. On February 23, 1995, Nick Leeson did not show up for work. On his desk, there was a note, 3 words, "I'm sorry." The day before, he had left Singapore with his wife, moving through Kuala Lumpur and several European countries, trying to cover his tracks. When the bank opened account 88888, it found £862 million in losses, 1.5 times more than Barings' entire capital. The bank was insolvent. Management urgently searched for a buyer. The Bank of England organized talks with major players. Nobody wanted to take on the full scale of the liabilities. On February 26, 1995, Barings Bank was sold to the Dutch group ING for £1, a coin you could find in the pocket of a coat. A bank that had existed for 233 years, trusted by the British Crown and aristocracy across Europe, ceased to exist. More than 1,200 employees lost their jobs within days. Leeson was arrested in Frankfurt right at the airport. He did not resist. He told journalists, "I'm sorry." He was extradited to Singapore, and the court sentenced him to 6.5 years. In prison, he was diagnosed with colon cancer, surgery, chemotherapy. He was released early after 4 years. While he was behind bars, his wife filed for divorce. After his release, he wrote a book, Rogue Trader, a bestseller. In 1999, a film starring Ewan McGregor was released, and Leeson himself consulted the production team. Today, he speaks at corporate conferences around the world, talking about risk management and how organizations create the conditions for their own collapse. The man who destroyed a bank with a 233-year history now teaches others how to prevent it. Here is what matters to understand. Nick Leeson was not a villain with a plan. He did not want to destroy Barings. It all started with one decision, to hide someone else's £20,000 mistake. But every next step seemed like a lesser evil than the one before. Admitting the truth felt scarier than hiding it one more time. Stopping felt scarier than betting again. And the system allowed him to do it, because nobody was checking. If you found this interesting, subscribe. The next story will be just as brutal.